JGT, what's up, brother?
Gee, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Wish I had not watched what we watched this afternoon
Yikes.
together, but it is what it is, right? And look, to be honest, now I never imagined the offense to be as discombobulated as it was today, but this kind of falls with what I saw for the season. I think before the season, and on your show, I think I said 7-5. I think on the
You
show
did.
that I did
You
with
did.
Jay Lee, I've been saying 6-6 to 7-5, and that truly, to me, Jay, with as much transition as we had on the offensive side of the ball, some of the things I heard coming out of fall camp, that's truly what I expected. With so many G5 players kind of stepping up a level of competition, it's going to take them a while to adjust to what they're seeing, and also kind of collectively together. Offense is one of those you have to develop together. And with so many parts coming in June that you're trying to count on that weren't able to go through spring, it's just, early in the year you're going to have some of this. Now, you touched on it on your show. I don't think anybody anticipated Peyton to kind of play the way he has to this point. That's the shocking thing.
He's been awful.
Right.
He's scared. He's
He really
terrified,
has.
Jhead.
It certainly feels that way. I don't know necessarily, there are times when I'm watching it and you can tell he's reading the wrong side of the field, where he's looking at the overloaded side or the strong side of the defense, and he's got one-on-one to the top end of the coverage, and he's just not even looking at it. So I'm a little confused if he's confused about the offense, if the moment's too big. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but it definitely makes you think that maybe he should have gambled on Spencer Sanders when he had the opportunity to in the spring. And that's not me trying to throw shade at you by any means. It's just, I think given Auburn's situation with Robbie Ashford as your returning quarterback, you needed to bring in as many guys as you possibly could, whether they potentially be injured or not. And I know everybody obviously didn't want to relive the situation we lived with our previous Texas A&M transfer, watching him sit hobble on the sideline all season. But Jay, right now, we just don't have a QB. That's the major issue. I don't think Holden's ready yet to play. I think Robbie's one-dimensional, and unfortunately, Peyton's just not seeing it. He's just not seeing it right now, and that's the difficult part. So you're going to have to grind some games out, which means, and I know I'm going on a I think a 5-minute monologue already, but it boils down to a handful of games this year to get where we want to be, which is to 6-6, 7-5. That's going to take you down to Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Arkansas. And I'm not willing to concede Ole Miss just yet because we get that game at home. But it's going to be tough sledding in those next two games against Georgia and LSU, my man.
I just keep thinking he's going to click. I keep thinking that Peyton's going to click. He's going to finally start making some fucking sense with the way he plays the position, but it hasn't happened yet. And maybe I'm the idiot for thinking it will.
Well, I don't think you're an idiot, Jay. I think the competition, once we get beyond LSU, it gets a little bit easier for what he's going to be facing from a defensive standpoint. But you play the front seven in A&M is as talented as anybody you're going to play in the country.
Yeah, they're good.
I mean, they are legitimately top 10 in that front seven. Their issues there lie in the back end, and we didn't have the receivers to necessarily expose things. And when we did have things schemed up, like the plate affair, I heard D. Lucky talking about that. That's just one of a couple that we had schemed where guys were open. And unfortunately, our quarterback couldn't put it on the guy. So all the way around, it was just kind of a failure from an offensive standpoint. I know a lot of people are pointing to the game plan and being relatively upset with how some things were nuanced or sequenced. I thought there were some shot plays that were there. I thought we just didn't execute for what we needed to do, and some of our offensive personnel were beat up in addition to. Obviously, VAR wasn't full speed. Jarquez is playing with one good wheel. You lost Amari very early on. Those are guys that have been strengths for you, and you knew were going to be strengths coming into the year. You really needed them to stay healthy, and they're not right now. So that was tough for us. But how do you feel, man? Like, where are you at as far as your expectation for the rest of the season?
I got to dampen it, man. I thought they were a 9-win team. I thought they were going to get their stuff together. I thought Peyton was going to be good. It's pretty obvious he's not, so I'm going to have to dial that back, and I'm probably with you now. I think 7 wins. Somebody earlier said 4 wins, and I'm like, guys, come on. I mean, geez. They're going to win some of these games.
Has anybody watched Vanderbilt play?
Oh,
I mean,
bad.
they just lost it. Yeah, they just lost to UNLV. We've got New Mexico State. Mississippi State is not a great football team, and we get them at home. So 6 wins is doable for sure. Can you find that 7th win, to me, between Ole Miss and Arkansas? That's the one you're looking for. Or, look, Alabama's in a tailspin themselves right now. Maybe they find themselves today against Ole Miss, but to me, that game is going to be more competitive because you see a lot of the same problems on Alabama's side of the ball that you see on ours, which is you don't have a quarterback. Not at this point anyway.
Yeah. I'm concerned. I mean, I am. Peyton is a 0 right now for me. Robbie can run the football, and I don't know what to think about Holden. I just don't know how to even categorize him. He has so few snaps, like varsity snaps, and I would have to trust the coaching staff on that. They think he can throw the football.
He can. I mean, everything I heard was he spun it really, really well in fall camp. But do you want to shoot a kid's confidence by putting him in there when the rest of the team's not able to play well around him? And I think that's what the coaching staff is trying to avoid. In addition to the fact that you're right, he hasn't seen a whole lot. So do you really want to throw him out there against UGA?
You can't.
Do you really want to throw him out there, right, against LSU in Red Stick? I mean, to me, it makes sense if you're going to turn to Holden. If the quarterback play does not improve over the next 2 games and you go into that bye week, that's the logical time that you're going to make a transition when you come out against Ole Miss and you start to play against a defense that's not going to be in the top half of the league because you get Ole Miss, Mississippi State, who's a good defensive football team, but they're not a great team overall, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and New Mexico State. None of those are defensive juggernauts, so it makes a lot more sense to probably put Holden in there if you're going to start toying with that idea. I don't know that Freeze is ready to go there just yet because that kind of means he's punting a little bit on the season.
I agree.
I think he's really going to try to get to that 6 or 7 win mark. He wants to get to a bowl game because that means improvement from last year. Anything 5 and 7 or worse is a regression. So if you can get to 6-6, 7-5, if you can get to that top 12 recruiting class, which we're on the way to doing right now, you still got a few more pieces that you got to get there. But talent acquisition is the biggest thing that Hugh Freeze can do this season.
And he's done a lot of that so far.
Done a lot of that so far. Right now, you have to win enough. You've got to win enough to hold what you've accrued to this point and still go win a few more battles. And that's important to show a team that is on the upswing and not on the downswing. And then you've got to be able to look, we all know that they have these now. You've got to have a department that's scouting other college talent. And when those guys hit the portal, you got to be ready to capitalize. Now, we don't need to take 20 transfers like we did this past year. I think we're kind of seeing right now, it's hard to get that many moving pieces together and have some cohesion on either side of the ball, though our defensive transfers have played very well to this point.
Yeah, I agree.
Jalen McLeod, it's several of those guys on the defensive side have played well. But I think you need to find about 10 guys in the transfer portal to fill gaps for you. And if you don't have a quarterback, if you don't decide that there's a quarterback on this roster that you can roll with moving into next year, and it's got to be a platform all the way through, then you got to go find one or pluck one out of the portal. That's just kind of where you're at.
Because Walker White, I don't know, man. Like, maybe.
I mean, I think he's going to be great. Yeah, I think he's going to be great. But do you really want to throw a true freshman against the schedule that you're going to play?
No.
I mean, I don't. I think you need to go find a vet. And look, Freeze has been here now. It will be a full year come November. They're going to be much more in tune with who's going to be going into the portal. And you and I both know there's a knowledge aspect to that. You got to know who's going to be going in, and you got to be ready to pounce when they do. But you're going to need some more pieces from the portal. You're going to need to attack the JUCO ranks to make sure that you're upgrading talent in which way you can, and you got to hold on to the high school guys you got and win a few more battles. And to me, beyond winning 6 and 7 games, that's the most important thing that you can do because it sets the floor for everything moving forward.
Yeah. Sure would help to win right now, though. It would help to galvanize that class, yeah.
It would, and that's what I'm saying. You got to win enough. You got to look better next week against Georgia if that's possible. And I think playing in Jordan Hare will help. Obviously, the crowd will be a little bit different. They'll be into it. It's Georgia, but you need to show some fight. Then obviously you need to get healthy. You need to go down to Red Stick and not get completely blown out. And you need to come back home for a big Ole Miss game where there are going to be a lot of recruits. And you need to be ready to put on a good performance.
Yeah. Sounds easy.
It sounds easy, right?
Yeah.
It's always easier said than done. And I know that I'm not necessarily bringing sunshine to the chat today. I'm trying to stay realistic with my viewpoints and expectations for this team. And that's the only thing that I would encourage, the listeners that we have on this show today, the people that are going to be on the bunker later, any social media platform that you're on. Remember that this is a team in transition. This is a coaching staff that is trying to find a way to wheel this team to bowl eligibility and to slowly but surely put the pieces in place that are going to lead to long-term success. And I think there's so much hope with transfer portal recruiting, and it's easy to get lost in that. But the reality is when you have that many moving pieces, it's truly difficult. And I know people are going to say the Colorado thing, and what Deion's doing. I get it. But Deion has a quarterback. Okay, Let's be honest. Shedeur Sanders holds that whole thing together. You put Peyton Thorne on Colorado's roster, it's not quite the same product. And that's not me trying to shit on Peyton or take shots. It's not. I just think Shedeur Sanders is probably a second-round draft pick today. And I don't know that Peyton Thorne is necessarily an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the difference to me.
Yeah, playing this way, he certainly ain't.
No. He's not, my man. And it's, it just is what it is. That doesn't mean that he can't be serviceable. That doesn't mean that we can't improve our offensive product. It just means we got to go back to the drawing board and work a little bit harder on finding the things that we do well, and then capitalizing when we do have shot plays in place, to get those big gainers down the field that this offense truly needs to get going. You saw it last week against Sanford. When this team has success, they have those big plays. And we had 0 explosive plays today that didn't come out of the run game. I think Brian Battie was probably your spark plug, if anybody. And credit to that young man for battling the way that he did.
He battled his ass off today, for sure.
He did. 165 pounds. You're going out there and you're banging, against a very nasty front seven and talented group. You're talking about a collection of freaks on the defensive line for Texas A&M that, like I said, they stack up against anybody in the country. I'd put that front seven that they have up against what UGA has.
Damn.
I
high
honestly
praise.
would. They're that talented in the front seven. Now, it's the back end where there's a major difference. And if you had Hunter on here, I'm sure he would tell you the same thing. They are susceptible to the long ball in the back end, and we just couldn't take advantage today because we don't have the dudes on the outside that we need.
Damn, Mike C's been tough on you in the chat. He says, this is BS. Hughes should have had this offense in a better spot. Stop making excuses, Jhead. Wow.
Listen, he's entitled. He's a passionate fan, just like a lot of people.
It's frustrating.
What I mean? They don't want to hear excuses, and I'm not trying to make excuses. But to me, cohesion is such a huge part of offensive football, and making sure that you have somebody that can make the proper reads and diagnose things. You can coach it as well as you need to. If you have guys that can't execute it, it does not matter at the end of the day. That's why talent acquisition is the number one thing when you're retooling a team. You got to have dudes that can do it. And we just don't have enough on this team. And I'm not stumping for Hugh. This is my honest assessment of the roster, where it's at. And look, as D-Lucky said, and I want to give him credit for this, think of where this team would be if you hadn't made the additions that you made in the transfer portal and in our prior recruiting class.
It's true.
You're looking
worse. Much worse.
Yeah, you're looking at 3 wins, probably. So, look, I don't blame Mike C. for being upset. I don't blame him for taking issue with what I just said. I truly understand how passionate Auburn fans are and how they feel and how much they want a winner. They're tired of watching this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is a true feeling of just disgust when you line up and you want to be competitive with the Alabamas and the A&Ms and the LSUs and the Georgias. You know what I mean? You want to go out there and knock their dick in the dirt and come out with a 17-point victory.
Hell yeah.
We're just not there just yet, guys. It's going to be a process to get there. I think Hugh's the right guy to get it done. but it starts with getting more talent on the team right now. And look, I think the offensive product will improve as the season goes on. I honestly do.
It's got to, because it's pretty damn bad right now.
Yeah, I mean, 2 Power 5 games, and it's been putrid, right?
Yeah, bad. Jhead, you're an absolute stud. Everybody loves you. Everybody clamors for you every single week in the chat. They said, when's Jhead calling in? So thank you for giving us some time,
Well, no, I appreciate you, buddy. I love the platform. Love everybody in the drain. Hope you guys have a great rest of your afternoon, and talk to you later, Jay.
All right, Jhead. See you, bro.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
There he is, Jhead. How would you rate the quality of this call? 5 stars. Hell yeah.